Hi, Chapter 13 deals with converting to algebra. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to write down equations from the information given and solve these equations to solve the problem. Alright, so the first type of problem I'm going to give you, we're going to call these mixture problems. And we're going to go through a couple types of those problems, and then the next video will show you different types of problems. Alright, so Augustus is trying to make chocolate milk. He has made a 10% chocolate solution, and what that means is 10% chocolate, 90% milk. He has also made 25% chocolate milk solution. Unfortunately, the 10% solution is too weak and the 25% is way too chocolatey. He has a whole lot of 10% solution, but he only has 30 gallons of 25% solution. How many gallons of 10% solution should he add to the 25% solution to get 15% chocolate? So we're talking about a 10% solution, and we're talking about a 25% solution, and we're talking about a 15% solution. And the 15% solution is what we want. Okay, so the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to define my variables. So I'm going to let x equal the amount of 10% chocolate. And this means all of it, all of the liquid. We're going to let y equal the amount of 25% chocolate. And then we don't know, but he only has 30 gallons of 25% solution. Okay, so we're told that he has 30 gallons. So in other words, y is equal to 30 in this case because we're told that. Okay, in order to get a 15% solution, we got to add the 10% and the 10% and the 25% together. So we are going to write an equation here. So I'm going to use some variables here and words. And so basically what we're doing is we are adding the amount of 10% plus the amount of 25%, and we're going to get the amount of 15%. Now this equation is going to represent all of the liquid. Chocolate, milk, everything. Okay, so now we're going to put some variables in here. Well, the amount of 10% we said was x. The amount of the 25% was y, and we said that that was equal to 30. And then that's equal to the amounts of 15%. We don't know that yet, so we're just going to rewrite that. Okay, so that was my first thing that I wrote down. Hey, x plus 30 is going to give me how much 15% I'm going to have at the end of the day. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to write an equation just talking about the chocolate. So chocolate equation. Okay. So basically what we're saying is if I have the amount of chocolate in the 10%, I'm going to add the amount of chocolate in the 25%, and when I add those together, I'm going to get the amount of chocolate in the 15%. Okay, now here's how we figure out the amount of chocolate. To figure out how much chocolate is inside the 10% solution, we basically multiply by that percentage. So I'm going to say 10%, remember, can be written as a decimal. so 0.1, because you just move that decimal over to the left 2 spots, times the amount of chocolate solution, so there's the 1x, because we said that that's the 10%, plus, now the 25%, you take the percentage, times, we'll put this x in parentheses, times how much 25% chocolate solution we had, and this said, hey, we have 30, so we're going to put 30 here. Okay, then we have our percentage, which is 0.15, times the amount of 15% solution, and we said that that was equal to x plus 30. So basically what we did is we used the first equation to write our second equation. Now we solve. So we are going to solve this equation. Okay, so let's do this. So we have 0.1x, all right, and 0.25 times 30, we get 7.5 is equal to, we're going to use the distributive property here, 0.15x plus, now we want 0.15 times 30, 4.5. Okay, I'm going to subtract 0.1x. And I'm going to get 0.05x, and then I'm going to subtract 4.5, and I'm going to get 3. Okay, then we divide by 0.05, and so let's do that. So 3 divided by 0.05, and we get 60. So we're saying that 60 equals x. So what does that mean? X equals the amount of 10% solution. So what that means is we have 60 gallons of 10% solution. So we need to mix 60 gallons of 10% with 30 gallons of 25% to get 15% solution. Okay? Alright, so that was the first type of problem. Let's look at another one. Alright, let's extend this page. Dr. Luby, a chemist, mixes 2 solutions. One is a 24% acid, and the rest is water. The other is a 41% acid. About how much of each solution does she need to produce 50 gallons of a solution that's 31% acid? Answer to the nearest hundredth of a gallon. Okay, so same thing. We're going to let x equal the amount of 24% solution. We're going to let y equal the amount of 41% solution. And then we have 50 gallons of 31% solution. So we're going to write 2 equations. The first equation that we are going to write is going to deal with the total amount of solution. Okay, so basically we have the amount of 24% plus the amount of 41% will equal the amount of 31%. Okay, so now let's fill in our stuff. We have x plus y, and when the amount of 31% is 50. So there's my first equation that we're going to deal with. And we're going to use it here in a little bit. Okay? The second equation, now we'll put the second one down here, deals with the amount of acid. Okay? So basically we're saying the acid in the 24% plus the acid in the 41% is going to equal the acid in the 31%. Okay, so basically we're saying, hey, we're going to take our percentage, 0.24, times the total amount of the 24% solution, which is X, plus our percentage in the 41% times the amount of solution, which is Y. The 31%, the percentage, times how much we had, and we had 50 gallons. And so now that's our second equation. So once we found our two equations, we are going to solve the system. So I'm going to rewrite my equations. My system is I have X plus Y equals 50. That's my first equation. My second equation is 0.24X plus 0.41Y is equal to, I'm actually going to figure that out, 0.31 times 50, 15.5. There are my two equations. Let's solve them. When you solve a system of equations, you first go to your first equation and solve for a variable. So I'm going to solve for y. I'm going to say y is equal to 50 minus x, because you subtract x from both sides. So basically what's going to happen is that 50 minus x is going to come in here and it's going to replace the y. And so then over here, I'll go in green, we're going to have 0.24x plus 0.41 times 50 minus x is equal to 15.5. Okay, so now I have 0.24x plus 0.41 times 50, 20.5, minus 0.41x is equal to 15.5. For those of you that didn't know what I did, I used the distributive property here. Okay, add my like terms. So 0.24 minus 0.41, 0.24 minus 0.41, I get negative 0.17. And then I'm going to take 15.5 minus 20.5, which ends up being negative 5. And then I divide it by negative 0.17, so 5 divided by 0.17, and I get 29.4. Now I solved for x, so now I'm going to come in here and plug it back in, and I have y is equal to 50 minus 29.4. So let's do that. 50 minus 29.4. And so y is equal to 20.6. Okay, so now let's answer the question. The question says, about how much of each solution does she need to produce 50 gallons of a solution of 31%? Okay, so y was the 41% solution, so she needs 20.6 gallons of 41%, and then she needs 29.4 gallons of the 24%.